who represents these people in Ghana's legislative arm of government, is not happy about the turn of events.
We had COVID in 2020 before the president cut short, and so I don't think the delay should be blamed on COVID. The delay should be blamed on the Ministry of Health and the minister in charge of the ministry.
Now, a lot of people have said that if government knew that it wasn't going to put up the structure early, why didn't government leave it as it were for the people of La, Teshi, Nungwa, and other adjoining communities to use the facility? Remember, in the beginning I told you that the reason or the main inspiration behind the demolition is alleged issues relating to structural integrity as far as this facility, which was constructed in the 1960s, is concerned. The people are not happy, and this mass land, which is now being overtaken by weeds, as you can see, is locked with padlocks, gated, and we do not have access. We've been speaking to persons here who have told us that they are caretakers of the property. We've tried letting them allow us entry, but they have bluntly refused. So we cannot enter and bring you footages of exactly what is there. But I think if what our cameras have captured so far, you see that the whole place has been overtaken by weeds. Now, I've been able to speak to some residents who decided to speak off camera. They've told me that they have given up on the issue. They've repeatedly spoken to the media about issues relating to the La General Hospital, and they are tired, and they don't think that their demands will be heeded by this administration. As people of the media, we shall continue to hold government's feet to the fire of accountability. We shall continue to speak until the La General Hospital is constructed for the people of La, Teshi, Nungwa, who depended on this facility in terms of healthcare.
Well, that was my colleague Blaise Kokwalo-Maso bringing us a live feed of what's happening on the site that has been carved out to, structure the La General Hospital, and he heard all that he reported. But thank you and good morning for choosing us always to bring you the latest here on the show. This is Good Morning Africa, and this is the newspaper review segment with me, OHEMAA, AGYEKUM. We are live from our studios 48 Swanika Street, Abiling, Accra. We are watched across 46 African countries, some parts of South America and Europe via satellite. This morning, of course, as usual, we have some topics tabled for discussion, and I have my solid team here, my Friday solid team. One of my guests wasn't supposed to be here on Friday. Was supposed to be here on Wednesday, but he didn't turn up, and so he's here today. And of course, it's going to be insightful, it's going to be progressive, and it's going to be a moment of enlightenment. Now, I'm going to share with you the topics for discussion today, and you know that you are welcome to be a part of the conversation by sending your messages or through the numbers that have been displayed on the screens. And please be reminded that this number is not for calls, it's strictly for text messages and WhatsApp messages. Text messages and WhatsApp messages. I want to say a big good morning to all our viewers up north. We know how much you are into us at Pan-African Television. We do appreciate you. And down south here in Accra, in the Volta region, in the Middle Belt, we really do appreciate your time. And for our online viewers as well on Facebook and YouTube, we really do appreciate you as well. Thank you and good morning once again. Now, today we'll be looking at Zimbabwe and the fact that the gold-backed currency loses value, and we'll also be looking at Supreme Court, as Domlevo has asserted that professionalism should be, applied in handling political duties. We'll also be taking a look at SNIT as the Director General is saying that they will work to strengthen the scheme further. And Akufo-Addo is also set to commission the largest northern gold mine in November. And my panelists have taken their seat. I'm going to introduce them. And without further ado, good morning to my first guest, Hamza Suruhini, Esquire. Esquire is very necessary. It's very prudent to, put that title there. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, OHEMAA, and thank you for having me.
How's it going?
Like I've always said on this platform, we are living in times that we just have to find ways to survive, unfortunately, because every aspect of our life is undergoing depreciation. It's not just the city alone. Our economic circumstances, our moral fiber as a country, our social and cultural values are being threatened largely because of the nature of government we have in place. Our family values are under attack, where lies, deception seem to be the order of the day. Our freedoms are equally under threat. And so, on a daily basis, we just have to find ways of surviving through that maze with the hope that come 7th of December, the good people of this country will do the needful and once again reset this country on a path to emergence and redevelopment after subjecting it to 8 years of misrule and unfortunate way of leading a nation. So yes, we can only hope to continue to survive until that day.
All right, thank you, Council. Moving on to my next guest, he is in the person of Dr. Ramsey Inusa. Good morning.
Good morning, OHEMAA.
How's it going?
OHEMAA, I am grateful to the Almighty God for how far He has brought we members of the Movement for Change and the movement itself, the true movement, political movement that represents the dreams and aspirations of the Ghanaian youth, especially, and the movement that would bring back the golden days of Ghana, the days of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. And we say, without any iota of doubt, that Honorable Alan Kojo Tramantin, looking at historic precedents in the past, is the reincarnation of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, looking at how he has been able to transform our automotive industry and certain industrial sectors of our economy. We have no doubt that this leader would be that rising star of Africa yet again. And I would like to say a very good morning to my colleagues seated here, and a Juma Mubarak to all Muslims watching us today, and as is Friday. And a very good morning to your good self as well.
Thank you.
And I must say the colors, the green, I don't know why you have green, but I mean, they have to compensate it.
Why not? Why not green? All right, so my next guest is no other than the very no, not controversial, please, not controversial. The very affable George AC. Good morning.
Fantastic word. You are darling.
Good morning, George AC. It's good to have you.
Good morning, OHEMAA. Soon to be council, right?
Yeah, soon to be, very soon to be.
And let me congratulate Councillor Hamza. Says being called to the bar. I think this is the first time we're meeting. He's a very studious and industrious young man, taken after his brother. And I think it's a good spirit we need to encourage. Yeah, good morning to Doctor. We agree to disagree because we are in one family and he decided, I feel betrayed. I feel betrayed. Anytime, I feel betrayed.
But thank you so much for coming.
Good morning to our viewers.
Yeah, and always he does well.
But the truth is, this Nana Danko Akufo-Addo government is being one of the phenomenal governments that this nation has had. Okay, in terms of massive infrastructure development. Some people allude to themselves as the king of infrastructure and only about 4,636 kilometers of road constructed compared to 12,830. In fact, some of the NDC people don't believe that such has been done. Okay? Your colleague, Nana Bahanamwa, said, come on, she's dazzled by the phenomenal road infrastructure hospital infrastructure. You name them, okay? And opportunities created for the youth and counting. So we update the Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Good morning, Your Excellency. Have you seen the waves that he's making in the Volta region?
I am following.
Have you seen the waves in the 5 northern regions?
I'm following.
Including Tamale North. Including Tamale North.
I'm following the various campaign trails, but it's going to be an exciting morning as always.
My brother, Suhimi is in trouble.
You see, I need to come with a certain level of energy. Yes. And I mean, this is one of the episodes that...
The Volta one, you know what? I've lived in the Volta region. And people will come, people just ignore, as if nothing is happening.
But
now,
do you remember 2016?
the narrative has
The
changed.
narrative about Kumasi. Kumasi is changing. You see,
so
sometimes
the
some
objective,
government parties are biased, like they lose.
we have
So Kumasi is
consistently,
changing. Kumasi is becoming the World Bank of the NDC.
we have
All these
consistently
stories.
increased our votes in the Volta region. Consistently, you check the data. Consistently.
In Ashanti region,
And this time our target
continues to
target
improve.
is hitting 300,000 votes for the presidential.
Very well. Very well.
Okay.
We're going
And
to
I've
go
seen
to
the
that.
data, a survey that shows, the NDC is going to get about 62% in the Volta region. Okay, the MPP is hitting 78% in Ashanti minimum. Our target is 85, and the running mate is leading that charge.
Well, very well. Thank you.
That's why I want to maintain our brother 0.001.
We'll see come December 7. But unfortunately, along our conversation, Dr. Hamza would have to, Dr. Ramsey will have to excuse us because he has other equally important matters to attend to. But let me take us through our subjects or our topics for discussion today once again, as our viewers are also welcome to be a part of the conversation. Now, Zimbabwe gold-backed currency loses value. Also, Supreme Court Domilevo says that he is calling for professionalism in handling of political disputes. Also, SNIT will work to strengthen the scheme further, according to Director General, and Akufo-Addo to commission largest northern gold mine in November, according to Abu Jina. Now, let's delve straight into our first topic, which has to do with Zimbabwe's gold-backed currency loses value. For context, let me just read as it has been captured in today's edition of the Daily Graphic newspaper. Says that less than 6 months after Zimbabwe launched yet another new currency, it was forced to devalue it, signaling new challenges for the Southern African country's efforts to stand up a local currency and reduce dependency on the United States dollar. All right, we have a fair idea of what Zimbabwe is facing right now. But my first question will be to Doc, because you would have to run in the course of our conversations. Now, recently, Ghana was ranked by the World Bank, the Ghana cedi, the fourth weakest currency in sub-Saharan Africa. And we were talking about using gold to, strengthen the economy. And Zimbabwe, their currency is gold-backed and yet has lost its value. What is your thoughts on these two circumstances?
Yes, OHEMAA, good morning once again to your cherished viewers. I would beg you to know that before even I begin, that Dr. Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia was one of the experts that was called by the Zimbabwean government to try and help them strengthen their currency, just for viewers' education. But he failed in achieving that. The current economic woes of Zimbabwe has been predicated on the economic sanctions that they have experienced over the years under the regime of Robert Mugabe, right? They had sanctions from the US, the IMF, and then the World Bank. And so this is a post-syndrome of those implications. And I mean, gold is seen as a highly volatile commodity in the international markets, okay. Right? And anytime you try and back your currency with gold, it appreciates the currency over a long period of time. That is why the US and other developed countries save their currencies in gold so that they can be able to tackle inflation, right, and then to save up the depreciation of their currency. But unfortunately, with that of Zimbabwe, there is some form of macroeconomic instability that they have endured over the past 2 or 3 decades. And unfortunately, the Zimbabwean economy has not seen that diversification, right, in terms of what they produce. And so there is always, their economy is similar to that of Ghana, which is an import-oriented economy. And so there's a huge demand for the dollar, which is even used in trading in Zimbabwe locally, right? And also to do with the loss of investor confidence in the country over the years. So they have low influx of forex coming into the country. Now, if you look at the region, the sub-Saharan African region, right, Zimbabwe's currency is the worst performing in sub-Saharan Africa and even the world. And so there are a lot of issues plagued with the country. And I think that backing it with gold has not been a solution, because there are other macroeconomic issues that the country is currently plagued with. And I believe that if Zimbabwe puts in the right leadership, as it is with Ghana, I'm sure they will be able to leapfrog their people from poverty to prosperity and also have a stable currency going forward, right? If they have been blessed with a lot of ecosystems, right, that the country can actually promote ecotourism. Today, the likes of Indonesia, right, and then that of Costa Rica, which I have been blessed to witness, especially Costa Rica, they earn over $3, $4, $5 billion from ecotourism. Zimbabwe has a lot of wildlife, right? They have the Victoria Falls, part of the Victoria Falls within Zimbabwe, and other fantastic landmarks that they can actually use to promote tourism, ecotourism, to be able to attract foreign reserves. They also have gold, right? But again, what is the value of their gold mines to the country? Who are the companies mining these golds, and what is the profits gained by the country? Unfortunately, they don't gain much. All these golds that are being mined from Zimbabwe goes outside, and it's not enjoying any benefits to the people of Zimbabwe. Just like in Ghana, you look at a place like Obuasi. Look at how highly impoverished and destituted Obuasi is. But yet, Obuasi has the second largest gold reserves in Africa. That today, Ghana is the leading producer of gold in the whole of Africa. Yet still, the people of Obuasi do not benefit from this blessing or wealth. And it's a problem, and that has to do with leadership, right? The kind of contracts our leaders sign with these foreign multinationals and all that. So I think that holistically, a failure of leadership has been one of the contributing factors to the woes faced with the currency in Zimbabwe. If they are able to establish that credible leadership in Zimbabwe, it would boost investor confidence, and I'm sure that the stability of their currency would hold.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much for that, Doc. Let me move straight to Mr. EC. What are your thoughts on this subject matter?
Yeah, thank you. It's interesting, Zimbabwe. I disagree with Doc because in the times when Dr. Bawumia was made to go and support Zimbabwe, I think by the World Bank or IMF, they were buying one bread with a wheelbarrow full load of Zimbabwe currency, in the Zimbabwe dollar. Okay, so he worked with the IMF partnership, and they were able to stabilize the Zimbabwe economy. These are facts. and before he left the place. Now, Zimbabwe is plagued with the issue of drought. It's part of their challenges, hyperinflation and all that. The fact that you're using dollar to show up your currency is good. In economics, they teach that. So gold is a store of value. You get it over a period. And Dr. alluded to that. Over a period. Most countries back their currencies with gold. It's a fact. It depends on the other variables, how they manage within the economy. And so then that will be determining the value of your currency. So if there's droughts and issues of food shortage and other things, definitely there's going to have a correlation with the value of your currency. Now, we have also begun using gold to back our currency. It's a fact. So we've got gold reserve in Ghana. We've moved it much higher. I've forgotten the ounces that we have, but it's been more than the 600% increase in our store of value at the Bank of Ghana. As we speak, the Bank of Ghana has begun a process of people buying gold as a reserve. You know, it's something that we are doing. And then the gold for oil policy that we have introduced is something that is helping. The gold aspect to one critical thing. You know, we got to, in 2022, we faced challenges with currency availability, forex availability. And so on that score, that was when one of the giant organizations, companies in this country, were trying to move a certain amount of dollars out. But the dollar availability was a challenge because at that time we had been downgraded by the international credit rating agencies, and then investors were a bit skeptical, and then issued the delays in the approval of the e-levy and all that. And so investors were a bit worried, and people were hesitant in pushing their money in. Some were even pulling out. And so we had challenge, and then we didn't have access because of the downgrading. We didn't have access to the international capital markets and all that. So it became a bit difficult for us. And Dr. Bawumia met, you know, that international body and said, look, there's an alternative. You know, you need this quantum because their business is, you know, headquartered somewhere, and so whatever profit you've made must be moved to, you know, the international account. Very important. And so then he came with the idea, okay, what if we give you gold? Well, then the company said, why not? And, you know, that started the idea of using gold to, you know, so instead of the dollars, so that the little dollars we have, then we can use it within. The international body, the company took the gold. Okay, so we used our currency to purchase gold, and then they took it away, and case resolved. And so then we decided let's build our gold reserve to back this. And so far, it's not been bad. The currency, you know, situation is not too distant because the dollar is actually not too available. That is part of the challenges that we have having. In the case of Zimbabwe, I don't think because Zimbabwe is having a challenge, Ghana is also going to having such precarious challenge. You get it? Because I think as of the time they started the ZIG dollar or whatever, it was about 13.7 or 13.5 thereabout. And as we speak, it's gone to about 27. Okay, and in another case, they say you need about 40,000 Zimbabwe dollars to get one United States dollar and go. Once upon a time, that was where they were. You get it? So whatever the fundamentals are that are making it difficult for them to hold their currency, they need to look at that. Okay, whether cut down on imports, increase exports, and then local consumption is encouraged. You get it? Local products, local food and co, so that the little forex they have can be used within the Zimbabwe economy. That will be a good direction that they should travel. So it's not easy. The leadership of Zimbabwe are having a difficult time, and once there's also drought OHEMAA, it means there's a challenge. You know, we also had situations where we said there's going to be food situation, you remember, and the government, through the Minister of Agriculture, put in some measures, and we said we're going to give some compensations and go to farmers within a certain enclave, okay? So these are measures that we have put in place in Ghana to ensure that the system is stable, okay, compared to what they are doing. So they need to do more to be able to get over this drought situation and reduce their inflation. In fact, they use hyperinflation, and they were there before. They were there before, during Mugabe's time. They had got more than hyperinflation. You get it? And but before Dr. Baumia and team also went there and stabilized the system. These are facts, okay? So you can get the data and see.
Right.
So Zimbabwe's situation is getting worse. We entreat the leadership to put in the measures. Gold is a store of value, and it cannot, if all other factors or variables are not properly managed, then there will be problem. But if you put the other variables in place, the gold will be a solid backbone for the currency.
Right, thank you very much. We are in full swing, and it's going on right here on Pan-African Television. This is the newspaper review segment on Good Morning Africa show. We're also live on Facebook, and so if you are not home behind your TV sets, you can log on to Facebook and watch us live on YouTube as well. But before I bring Lawyer Suhini, I almost said Honorable Suhini because of your brother. Lawyer Suhini, Lawyer Hamza. Okay, I'll just stick to Lawyer Hamza. Before I bring him in, let me read up just two messages. This one says that the NPP man, we the people of Volta are after the money NPP stole for the past 8 years, but not to vote for them. Okay. Ale, Japon, okay. And another one also says that the Enoman, what's that? Okay, the Enoman should stop wasting his time. GM is coming. Okay, Mambia Tamale. All right, so the messages keep coming, but I'll give Council the chance to speak, and then I can read more of your messages afterwards. Council.
Good morning to our cherished viewers out there. OHEMAA, I think that Dr. Ramsey did an excellent job in more or less reflecting the economic situation of Zimbabwe, even prior to the introduction of what is popularly called the ZiG, that is the gold-backed currency, in their panic attempt to more or less salvage the Zimbabwean economy. I have always believed, and I think that I have championed it on many other platforms, that the time has come for the African Union to come together to fashion out an economic model that has the potency of saving our economies and not make it dependent on the dollar-rand system. I appreciate that to be able to be successful in that endeavor, we need to look at the structure of all our economies in Africa. The structure of our economy should give us a clue as to how to confront some of these neo-colonialist tendencies of still having control over our economy. And so this is not just a political football for me. It is an opportunity for emancipation, provided that we take advantage of the situation and begin to think outside the box as Africans. Because these debates will continue to come out. These debates, if you look at the reason why we are so dependent on the dollar and its effects on our local currencies, I think basically it has more to do with our international trade and transactions, with our colonial masters, and to some extent, maybe Western powers, if I put it that way, it makes sense. Look. And the Asian targets. And the Asian targets. So there is the need for us to have an economic system or framework where the whole of Africa can sit together and fashion out and determine how we would engage these people and on what terms, and begin to make impressive structural reforms to our various economies. That is the only way we can get out of this quagmire. Otherwise, year on, we would come and sit around discussions like this and begin to pontificate about ways to salvage our economies. Without taking any tentative action, there's no way we are going to solve it. And if you read the books, the likes of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, I think that they gave us a beautiful footprint in terms of how to go about it. First, the way we manage our natural resources. We must find a way of actually investing in processing factories. It is not just enough, or it's not worth it for us to just export raw materials. Only for the raw materials to be refined and exported back to Africa, then we begin to queue over them. So naturally, it will have an effect on your dollar or your currencies. So these are issues we have to look at, and it doesn't take one country. Ghana cannot do it on its own. Zimbabwe is not going to be able to do it on its own, because these are all inbuilt in the global economic structure, deliberately designed to keep us down and keep us dependent on the Western superpowers. So there's the need for us to appreciate that and begin to think in that anti-colonialist spirit, like the likes of Nkrumah did, to be able to confront some of these challenges. Until that is done, you can have the best of ideas as a political leader. Be rest assured that the whole of Africa or the rest of Africa will still hold you or tie you down and make it very difficult for you to succeed as one African country. So there's the need for us to think outside the box. But you see, I have always had my reservations when it comes to gold-backed currencies. And when our own Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia attempted it, some of us began to raise the red flags. If you look at the structure of the Ghanaian economy, most of our transactions that leads to the high demand for dollar is mostly driven by the informal sector. Because there are market women who are in search of dollars to go and import goods from China. There are market women who are in search of dollars to import goods from America, the US, name them, the Asian targets. So this is the reality. And also you have a system where the foreign companies, they expatriate. So mostly even the revenues they get, they take it out of the country. And they don't take it out in cedis. They take it out in dollars. So if you look at that particular reality, and you look at our reliance on the dollar, what's the name, using what we call it gold-backed currency, the point is that the market women out there will still have suspicions and would find it very difficult to rely on that gold-backed currency. These are the realities, especially when you have demonstrated over the period that even in managing your own currency, you have failed. So what's the guarantee that you will be successful in managing the gold-backed currency? We were all in this country when Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia told us that the erstwhile Mahama administration had no clue as to how to manage the exchange regime. And so if they are given the opportunity, they would make sure that they at least better manage the exchange rate regime that we were running. Right. What is the rate today? Under His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, it was barely 4 cedis to $1. Today it ranges about 16 to 17 cedis to $1. So that tells you, and he indicated that our problem was structural. It had to do with the fundamentals of our economy. And that's why he made statement to the effect that if the exchange rate is, if the fundamentals of your economy is weak, the exchange rate will expose you. What has changed? Because he's the chairman of the economic management team. And I was laughing when I heard my brother made reference to the fact that, oh, he did an excellent job in Zimbabwe.
Which was not true.
Of course, that's why I said I was laughing, that he did an excellent job in Zimbabwe. OHEMAA, you have been entrusted by your boss and president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, to be chairman of the economic management team under his presidency. After you moved from university to pontificate solutions to the Ghanaian challenges as far as the economy was concerned, then the Ghanaian people trusted that and gave you power. Chairman of the economic management team, what is his record? Even in Ghana, even before we go to Zimbabwe, what was Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's record? You took this country at a point, inflation was about 15.4%. Under your leadership as chairman of the economic management team, inflation rose to about 54%. The debt situation of this country before Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia became president was around 120 billion. Under his leadership as chairman of the economic management team, our debt to GDP, our debt, external debt, rose to about 720 to 30 billion as we speak. In less than 8 years. Unemployment was about 8.7%. Today, under him as chairman of the economic management team, unemployment is inching close to about 15% in less than 8 years. Under him, these are the facts. Under him, I indicated that the exchange rate, the cedi to dollar, was less than 4 cedis. Today, because of his poor management of Ghana's economy, it is about 16 to 17 cedis to the dollar. These are the economic legacies of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. And not just that. Because of his reckless handling of the Ghanaian economy, Ghana was shut out of the international capital markets. What that simply meant was that even we were not responsible in our borrowing, to the extent that they had to shut us out. We couldn't borrow. These are his legacies. Again, under him, as chairman of the economic management team, Ghana had to painfully endure a domestic debt exchange program where innocent Ghanaians who invested in bonds had to lose a chunk of their savings, largely because of his poor economic model.
Wow.
Under him, our foreign debtors have lost so much. But if you look at the figures, the external debt exchange program, they have had to say that largely because of what is happening, they needed to engage them and plead with them to let go of some of the debts. This is the legacy of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. This is a man who ran Ghana's economy after all the beautiful lectures to an extent that we were not even able to pay our domestic debts, let alone external debts. Domestic debts to the Ghanaian people. So, what kind of experience did such a person take to Zimbabwe? Are you therefore surprised that Zimbabwe is in this current state? Because his competence should have reflected hugely in Ghana.
Which year did he go to Zimbabwe?
But even in Ghana,
you don't know that.
But even in Ghana, he is struggling to get a handle on the Ghanaian economy. So what legacy are you talking about? It is the IMF. After they succeeded in changing the political regime in Zimbabwe, the IMF then started working with the Zimbabwean system to bring the country back to life. It had nothing to do with Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Wow. And that is why I'm telling you that, for all you know, I would not even be surprised that this idea of gold-backed currency is a model Dr. Bawumia is trying to even copy from the Zimbabwean example. That was not his idea. We were in this country when he came. All the press conferences he gave, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia never indicated that he suggested a gold-backed model to Zimbabwe. Did he?
No, did he? Bawumia was in Zimbabwe in 2011.
I'm asking you a simple question. After he came, did he tell you that as part of something? My brother, when you were speaking, I was quiet. When you were speaking, please. When you were speaking, please. Because you see, when you were peddling falsehood, I was listening. When you were peddling falsehood, I was listening. Please. You see, I'm not even asking for him to supply.
But he's talking as if it was yesterday.
Oh my goodness! Can you respect the viewers? Can you respect?
You don't have that fact.
Can you respect? And I have just told you that after they succeeded in changing the political regime, the IMF and the political class of Zimbabwe took over. It had nothing to do with Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and that is why I had to give you the Ghanaian situation. You cannot claim.
Imagine this.
To be an antidote to another country's problems, when the very mandate that your constitution gives you in Ghana and the very responsibility your own president gives you, you have failed woefully. No vice president has ever failed and performed abysmally as far as the economy of this country is concerned since independence than Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Everybody knows that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has demonstrated to be a legendary failure. And when it comes to deception, he is comparable to none. And that is why I told you that beyond the lectures that were being prepared for him to read, take Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia away from the scripts and let him face the Ghanaian people for scrutiny, and you ask him questions. That is the stage we even begin to question the authenticity of his doctoral award. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has demonstrated that when it comes to economic management, it's zero. Give me one sector of the economy that is better than President Mahama as president. Give me one sector. And so, OHEMAA, when we talk about legacies, when we talk about people who are exemplary to other people or other states, it must first reflect in your own home country. And if you look at the Ghanaian example, there is nothing that gives the people of this country hope that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has even the basic knowledge of managing an economy, let alone being an example to a country like Zimbabwe that has gone through turbulent waters for decades. And so, my brother, you can begin to live in your own world and deceive yourself like Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia did to many Ghanaians, that there's so much happening in terms of economic performance under this government. But every Ghanaian knows that we have never been subjected to this kind of reckless leadership. We have never been subjected to this kind of incompetence since independence. This incompetence is clearly legendary. So Zimbabwe and the likes of Ghana, you see, I can assure you that when the NDC comes into power, we will review that so-called gold-backed currency model, because that is not what we need at this moment. What is needed is responsibility on the part of managers of the Ghanaian economy. What is needed is retooling of our structures. What is needed is a fight, like a committed fight against corruption, to ensure that you do not have situations where state officials siphon state resources in millions of dollars and putting same under their beds and wardrobes. Because if you tackle corruption effectively, be rest assured that you'll be able to control all the leakages. The problem with our currency is largely because the currencies we are looking for are in their homes. In some cases, they have found ways of taking it outside the country. So the problem is not the Ghanaian people. The problem has to do with the managers of the Ghanaian economy. And that was the same in terms of Zimbabwe too. It was part of their problems, apart from the international sanctions. So there is a need for us to realize that in Africa, we must begin to avoid such ways. Sorry, I told you I'm struggling with cold. Yeah. We must begin to realize that there is the need for us to come together as a bloc and begin to look at the structure of our economies and begin to downsize people like Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, whose only motivation for appearing on the political landscape is to be elected officials of state. But beyond such elections, they have nothing useful to offer the good people of Africa.
Okay, thank you very much, Doc.
OHEMAA, just to chip in here.
Right, just a few minutes for you, Doc.
Yes, and I'll wrap up.
Okay.
IC made certain statements which are not true, and I want to correct that. Ghana's gold reserve since the year 2000 till 2024 has never increased. It has remained at 8.74 tons. Even with the massive degradation of our lands, right? Our gold reserves has never increased since the year 2000 till date. So I want to correct that. Ghana's gold reserve since the year 2000 till date has never increased. No MPP government has increased the gold reserve or the NDC government. So ignorant. You doesn't know. So
maybe you should share your source of
trade
data.
economics. Check it.
Right, your source of data and his source of data. So this one, Ghana Gold Reserves, Trade Economics says that gold reserves in Ghana remained unchanged at 8.74 tons in the first quarter of 2024 from 8.74 tons in the fourth quarter of 2023. Gold reserves in Ghana averaged 8.74 tons from 2000 until 2024.
So what have I said different here? So thank you for fact checking, and I've just fact checked him. And this is known. I mean, I don't blame him. I don't blame him. The most difficult job in Ghana now is to come and sit here and defend the NPP government. That's the most difficult job in the world, not even in Ghana, in the world.
legendary.
And secondly, OHEMAA,
corrupt.
The goal for oil policy, I want to state clearly, emphatically, that it is an avenue to launder gold and money out of this country.
Yes.
If you have 57% of government's revenue, export revenue, coming from the gold sector, and out of this 57%, right, we all know that small-scale mining contributes to 40% of the revenues from gold. All our gold in Ghana, 40% comes from our small-scale miners. Right. Now, out of this 40%, 85% of small-scale mining is illegal, aka galamsey, which they are the key kingpins in this industry. Yes. So where is this gold going to? Where are all these gold going to? And they are the ones that are aiding and abetting with foreigners to launder gold out of this country. And there's a research paper to that. And I can tell you unequivocally that an Honorable Alan Kojo Tramantin-led government is going to prosecute any official of this regime that has helped foreign companies launder gold out of this country at the expense of the Ghanaian society. OHEMAA. And so we mean business. So he shouldn't come and sit down here and lie his way and think that we will sit down on consent.
I have been down with the governor of the bank reading something.
Anyway, so OHEMAA,
he doesn't know.
But that man
listen. Let me read it. What is this?
He deserves to be heard.
What is this?
Listen, the debt to GDP ratio. They said the debt to GDP ratio was 70%. Meanwhile, the IMF gave us 84%. And it's even over 100%. But what has ended with too much irritation?
Let me read a few messages.
Read it to you.
Please let me
know nothing about what's going on.
Our viewers also have got their 2 cents on this subject. All right, please. All right, so this one is saying that
precious minerals.
Right.
We launched this.
Please get your thoughts together while I do this.
So what?
Dr. Ramsey. Dr. Ramsey. Right.
He doesn't know nothing.
Wait, hold on.
Hold on, please.
Economic
management.
Now, our viewers have got their 2 cents on this as well. Please, if you can mute the mics, I'll be very grateful. Good morning. If the NPP as a party referring to future election not taking into consideration, Mr. AC, please, the current parliament, for that matter, the 9th parliament, does it mean Dr. Hamza and Mr. AC, please? Our viewers have also got Dr. Ramsey. Our viewers have also got their 2 cents on the subject. It says that, okay, this one is unrelated, but we'll read it. Does it mean they will vacate their seat in the 9th parliament if they win the election? All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Ramsey. Yeah.
No, I want him to be here. Let me read it.
No, he has somewhere to be, but he has somewhere to be. Maybe you send your message in response. All right, I will give you the chance to. Yeah, I will give you the chance to. I'll give you the chance to put those facts across. But this one is saying that, OHEMAA, I think most African leaders are not ready to develop their country, but rather their own families. Ghana's leadership is not an exemption. If care is not taken, the youth may use the force rather than the ballot box to choose their leaders. Okay. Danso is also saying that, good morning to you all. Our problem now is Ghana, our EC and the Supreme Court. They want to support the current government to win again, as they did in 2020. The EC and the Supreme Court should know that if anything bad erupts, they will also be trapped in, and all of us will suffer. Maybe they will face the biggest punishment. This one is from Amos in Asin Fosu. Okay, let me do a few more. Please, good morning, and thank you for your good work you are doing. OHEMAA, Please, I want to ask one of your panelists, Mr. Hamza Suhini, his honorable brother Suhini's number. Okay, maybe we can talk about that after the show. Let me take this last one. Nana Bawumia-led government is the wicked one ever. We need to vote them out. They don't take the vulnerable Ghanaian into consideration at all. When I hear and see people defending NPP, I shudder to think whether those people are also Ghanaians. The way the poor people are suffering and they still have the guts to defend the loot and share government to and share government to the detriment of the poor ordinary Ghanaian. What a shame. What a shameful government. They actually need to apologize to Ghanaians and stop the charade and sycophantic attitude. This one is coming from Pangpili Jebuni Yunus from Wa. All right, the messages keep coming, and I'm going to do due diligence. AC, please. I'll bring you in shortly. I'm going to do due diligence, but also note that you can watch us live on Facebook. We're live there, and be a part of the conversations. I'm going to take comments from our Facebook Live as well in the course of our conversation. All right. Over to you, Stacey.
Thank you. OHEMAA Business and Financial Times, 9th September 2024. Please, just listen. I've lived it. When we launched the PMM, the Ghana Gold Royal, whatever, refining gold in Ghana, I was there. The governor was there. The vice president was there. Top people in business and industry were there recently. 3 years into the domestic gold purchase program. 3 years into the domestic gold purchase program.
And this report is from the event?
No. This is a report from Business and Financial Times. Right. 9th September.
Which year?
2024. Okay. I'm giving you current issues.
Okay.
He doesn't read nothing.
Okay.
3 years into the domestic gold purchase program, the Bank of Ghana has made notable progress in strengthening its gold reserves, which have now reached 65.4 tons. 65.4 tons from 8.74. Okay? Valued at approximately 5.07 billion. At that program, the governor said this, the vice president said this, that $5 billion is what is actually holding us together well. And I will explain something, Honorable Suhini. So don't let me finish.
Our goal discussion.
A significant 23 tons were acquired in just the first half of 2024.
I'm sorry to truncate, but our goal discussion.
Somebody saying it's 8.7. That was
the time has elapsed, so please round it up for us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So these are viewers. These are facts. Go Business and Financial Times. 9th September. Just go online and get it. Okay. These are facts. You get it. So if anybody,
tell them the source.
what did I say?
You mentioned the source.
Yeah, so what it's about going to this thing. Who do you get it?
It's a story published. So what did
3 years on, Ghana doubles down on gold reserves.
That's what is the percentage terms of the increment? Because he was dealing with percentages. No.
He said nothing happened. He said nothing happened.
He told you since 2000.
Allow me to finish. Allow me. He said 8.74. That's what he said. Nothing. And what you read?
So and what did you read?
The first one was 8.74. The second one was 8.74. Is that what you read?
So no, but what did you read? So what percentage? So what percentage?
65.04. So that's
64.01.
Yes.
So it's the same thing as percentage.
No. What is? I'm saying tons.
So by this, but what was
8.74?
My goodness God.
What is this?
No, I won't allow you to get
it.
No, you don't. You rather have demonstrated that you did not.
You are very ignorant.
Because the guy is dealing with percentage, and you are here dealing with tones. These are the context ruling our country. Can you imagine?
Time for this.
What kind of
So let's move on to our second subject. Let's move on to our second topic.
Teach me mathematics.
And it has to do with dumb levels.
You are ignorant about it.
It has to do with the former Auditor General. We cannot stay here a little longer. We cannot stay here. We cannot stay here. We are hard pressed with time. We are hard pressed with time. Please understand this. Please. Yeah. Maybe in the dying numbers of the show we would.
OHEMAA, please, let me make this correction. It is important. You see, for the sake of our
Council, please don't take us back. We need to address this.
For the sake of our listeners, when Dr. Ramzo made reference to the lack of change, he gave a certain time period from 2000 to now, and he made it in reference to percentage, not to tons. When you read, did you read it in tons? Did you read it in tons?
Yes, tons.
No, but in terms of the percentage of change, he said it was 8.1. He said it didn't go in. It was 8.1.
No, maybe I should get the article again. Then
yes, it was in percentages. I'm a mathematician. It was in percentage. But you are now comparing 64,000 tons. No.
Now,
the guy mentioned percentage. Why?
Let's shift focus onto our next. Let's shift.
No, you have demonstrated that you don't understand it.
Let's shift
your volumes can actually
our next topic, and it's that the Supreme Court's issue. Now, the Inside newspaper has captured that the Supreme Domlevo is asserting that the Supreme Court needs professionalism in handling. Please, your microphones are off, so we're not hearing you. Domlevo calls for Mr. Isi, please. Let's move on to our next subject. Supreme Court Domlevo calls for professionalism in handling of political disputes, and this follows what has been happening in Parliament and also the ruling and orders given by the Supreme Court. And we are going to delve into these issues now. My question is that some legal jurists and even Ghanaians generally have said that the Supreme Court have become very predictable. Do you agree with this assertion, considering what is happening right now in our within our political environment? Lawyer, I start with you.
It is difficult to disagree with that assertion, because if you look at the conduct of the Supreme Court, one cannot help but actually raise legitimate questions, especially when it comes to their independence. And someone who I hold enormous respect for the judiciary, but the truth is that we are also duty bound as citizens of this country to raise legitimate questions when it comes to their conduct. And since the emergence of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo as president, so much has gone wrong, from appointments of judges, unreasonable numbers, either from the High Court to the Court of Appeal and subsequently to the Supreme Court, that many have raised legitimate questions as to why we are in a haste to pack the courts. And not just mere appointments. We are dealing with situations where known party operatives of the new patriotic party have actually been appointed to the Supreme Court. Known. In some cases, some of them actually contested for parliamentary elections on the ticket of the new patriotic party. And when they lost those elections, they were then posted to the Supreme Court as judges of the Supreme Court. So by that singular act, you are reducing the image of the institution and you are subjecting it or reducing it to public ridicule. And we all agree that when it comes to the fiber of our democracy, the Supreme Court is one of the institutional pillars that must serve and protect the sanctity of our democracy. So if you look at the nature of his conduct in terms of appointments, clearly, there's the need for us to be worried. Again, if you look at the decisions coming out from that Supreme Court, it leaves so much to be desired. And I gave you an example, I don't know whether it was on this platform or another platform, of the excuse or the reasons given by the Supreme Court in this Family Values and Human Rights Bill as to why it has delayed before the Supreme Court. They indicated that the delay was occasioned by the failure of the parties to submit or present their statement of case. That is what we call statement of defense at the lower courts level, but in the Supreme Court, statement of case. But if you look at the very rules that guides the conduct of the Supreme Court in terms of its decision making, CI 19, CI 16, there is absolutely nowhere it is stated that a submission of statement of case, especially on the part of the defendant, is a prerequisite to the determination of an issue before the Supreme Court. Because it is not incumbent. In fact, the defendant can actually decide not to submit a statement of case, and the Supreme Court would continue or go ahead to hear the case. So even if the Attorney General was reluctant as a defendant in the case in submitting a statement of case, it is within the powers of the Supreme Court to proceed, because per their own rules, you are not enjoined. It is not mandatory for you to file your defense. But that was the reasons they gave to the good people of this country when we began to question the delay. Remember, this was an act questioning the authority of the Speaker of Parliament, and to a very large extent, the sanctity of Parliament. And up till date, they are still dilly-dallying on that issue. Then we wake up one morning, the same Speaker makes a ruling and says that, oh, I have declared some 3 or 4 seats vacant. In less than 24 or 48 hours, the minority leader, based on the declaration, Afenyo Markins, and a member of the New Patriotic Party, is able to get the Supreme Court, not 1, not 2, not 3, but 5 judges, including the Chief Justice, to sit on an issue. Including the Chief Justice. And the funny thing was that they actually sat on a Friday. Anybody familiar with the workings of the Supreme Court knows that the Supreme Court, mostly they don't sit on Fridays. But they got the Supreme Court to sit on a Friday. Just because they wanted to go ahead and do what they did. And many have raised issues, legal practitioners of admirable repute in this country have even questioned the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court in entertaining that matter. If you know Justice Atuguba, one of our celebrated Supreme Court judges, have had cause to question whether the Supreme Court has jurisdiction to entertain such a matter. And I am convinced, based on my reading, that indeed they lacked that jurisdiction. And if there was any other Supreme Court, I am pretty much convinced that they would have thrown the case out and directed the people concerned to go to the High Court, because our Constitution under Article 99 is clear. Where you have a dispute about the vacancy of a member of Parliament seats or that of the Speaker or remover, your first point of call has to do with the High Court under Article 99. It is only when you get to the High Court then you can raise issues of interpretation, and there are rival meanings to the said provision, Article 97. Then the High Court can now, based on the authority of ex parte or causa, refer the matter to the Supreme Court for determination. So when the Supreme Court makes the interpretation, then the High Court will now factor that into its determination and ruling and make a determination to that effect. That was not the case. And you see, the framers of our Constitution are very careful, because even if you look at the committee's report that more or less resulted in the promulgation of the 1992 Constitution, in discussing issues of vacancy in Parliament and the Speaker's role, removal or otherwise, in order to keep the courts away, they even recommended that where there was an issue of removal or disqualification of a member of Parliament, the point of seeking redress had not to be it shouldn't have been the courts, but rather the Peace Council. You know why they did that? Because they appreciated the essence of separation of powers. So they actually wanted the Peace Council to have a judicial committee to deal with such issues that we have branded as political questions. So when there's an issue between parliamentarians or about the removal of a speaker or member of Parliament, your point of call should have been the Judicial Council. So that tells you that even in the mind of the framers of that Constitution, they understood that there was the need for them to respect that sanctity. It is not also accidental that when you are dealing with challenges to parliamentary elections, the Supreme Court in principle has no jurisdiction. And that is why even in the appeal process, when you are challenging a member of Parliament's election, it doesn't end at the Supreme Court. Interestingly, it ends at the Court of Appeal. But what we are seeing lately is a Supreme Court operating as a hatchet organization. And I know that there are well-meaning judges out there who are part of the Supreme Court bench who are concerned about the perception that the Supreme Court is beginning to get or have when it comes to the Ghanaian people. And many of them are worried. Unfortunately, that is one annoying legacy of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo again. So yes, but I still believe that we've not lost it all. We still have judges who are willing to stand up. We still have judges who are committed to the fidelity and principles as enshrined in our 1992 Constitution. And what we need is a change in political leadership to respect those institutions. And when people make reference to the judiciary, it is not just about the judiciary. We have seen that same hands in the composition of the current Electoral Commission, where Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, ably supported by Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, have packed the Electoral Commission. They have packed the Electoral Commission with partisan operatives. So it is not just the court system. If you look at the institutions of our democracy that are supposed to act as independent organizations, they have devised a policy of politicizing them. And it started the very day Nana Addo was sworn into office as President of the Republic of Ghana. So, OHEMAA, yes, every Ghanaian who is concerned about the posture of the Supreme Court has legitimate grounds to be concerned.
Right. Thank you very much, Carl. So we are still unpacking the issues here on Good Morning Africa, the newspaper review segment with me, OHEMAA AGYEKUM. Now, let me take a few messages from our viewers as they share their 2 cents on the subject matter. We're still talking about Domilevo's call for professionalism in handling of political disputes. This is addressed to the Supreme Court. Let me take this first message. It says, good morning, OHEMAA. In fact, I always like this, Miss Stacy, but today I'm so disappointed. Okay, this coming from Abbas Abdullah. All right. Great day to you, OHEMAA. We are not happy. It's not a happy day. Day in, day out under the NPP government. They think they are smart. We are immobile to Parliament to ask certain questions, but thanks to your stations, NPP government officials think they can manipulate us. Dazi Seth. Okay, Dazi, thank you for your message. This one says that this one's from Alhaji Hamza Pig Farm. Good morning, OHEMAA. We are being told the NPP minority petition the speaker to be recalled. Madam, are you aware that the reason given for the recall does not include please be reminded that this number is not for calls. It's strictly for text messages and WhatsApp messages. He continues to say that these people need not to be trusted, but I am happy the NDC majority in Parliament is ready to petition Speaker through a private members bill to revoke the LI 24262. Are you aware the NPP had their majority in Parliament after Mr. ACHIAA decided not to do business with NPP in Parliament, and it is the same Honorable ACHIAA who is taking them to minority. All right, thank you very much for that message, Alhaji Hamza. A few more. This one's saying, okay, hi, OHEMAA, I am Richard from Adidome, Volta region. I want the NPP to answer this question. If you are married to a beautiful woman you love in 2020, this beautiful woman gets up today in 2024 to tell you that she will be marrying a different man she has seen and love come 2025. Will you still love and stay with such a woman? Be honest to yourself. Where is the argument that the decision to contest as independent futuristic? Common sense was used in drafting the Constitution. How come members of NPP forfeited their membership in the NPP just by declaring their decisions to support an independent candidate? Into bracket, Alan, he has put it. But parliamentarians who filed to contest as independent candidates are still NPP members and have not forfeited their membership? Question mark. Hey, where is the common sense here? Okay. Akonsi Gariba from Tamale says, good morning, OHEMAA. I will urge the young guys in politics to be humble and stop their arrogant posture when they are offered a platform to make their views on national issues. How can Hamza Suhini question the authenticity of Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, PhD? Question mark. Who is Hamza Suhini in academic circle? He should be humble. Okay, he has heard you. Thank you. Let me take a few more. Good morning, OHEMAA. Unfortunately, Mr. AC has always been like this to disrupt everywhere he goes. Second to Abronye. The butterfly is flying over the elephant and the umbrella. BB Accra. Okay. Thank you very much, BB. Let me take this final one. Teacher Baba Salaga. Good morning to you all. The NPP man is just tickling himself and laughing. Isn't it the same BOG that created the mess of loss of over 60 billion Ghana cedis, the running down of our reserves? Right. What have you achieved when you recklessly mismanage your wealth and now struggling to recover the loss instead of adding? It's a shame. Okay, thank you, Alaji Baba. Teacher Baba Salaga. Thank you to you. We're still talking about Dom Levo's calls for professionalism in handling of political duties. This is addressed, or this is to the Supreme Court, and Council has made his submission. Over to you, Mr. AC.
Yeah, thank you, OHEMAA. You see, it's very irritating when the facts are there, people don't read, they don't research, and they come and sit here and try to mislead the people. He said, what you read, he said 8.74 in 2000, and in 20 now it's still 8.
I thought we had moved away from that.
I'm coming. We need to pull the facts. We're speaking to the public.
But we don't have much time.
Yes, don't worry. It's within my time. So 8.74 as of now. Nothing changed. And I said no. Because I've been a living witness at a program where the governor was there. There's a gold purchase program going on. And this is the facts that I've put out there. Again, OHEMAA, this government has built over 140 courthouses, expanded courts, the court system. And if you do that, you're not going to put judges there? Prosecutors and co are not going to work there. So what are we talking about the numbers and others? Because there's been expansion. Okay? Once upon a time, between here, Adabraka and Nsawam, I think there was no court or something. You get it? It's now in between. There are courts now. Hamasama and others. You get it? So that is a deliberate policy by the Akufo-Addo government. Okay? To bring courts closer to the people, so the justice processes will be enhanced. Okay? Now let's come to the matter on the table. The Supreme Courts and co. He knows, because he's an officer or going to be an officer of the courts. You get it? That exclusive jurisdiction on matters of interpretation is in the bosom of the Supreme Court. True or false? That's the fact. You get it? And this issue are matters of interpretation. Okay? And you know that in the issues of explanation of constitutional clauses and articles, okay, we have the letter and we have the spirit. Okay? And lawyers will tell you when you get to the matters of the spirit, we are looking at the purposive interpretation of that clause or article. That is what is there, right? Let's come to a matter that happened. There's something that Honorable Defeamepo is going to do. It's going to be much ado about nothing. Okay? Lawyers know that on matters of procedural, okay, which is captured in the Constitution, they won't do anything about it. And that's what he wants to do. You go and come back. There'll be smashed eggs on his face. Now let's come to the matter proper. There was an example in 1997. President Rawlings got re-elected. When he got re-elected, he asked all his ministers to stay in office. You get it? Yes. You get it. Thank you. President Rawlings asked them. Then he asked Kwampepra to present the budget. And James Mensah said, no, you've got re-election. But it doesn't automatically mean all your ministers must, yes. There's a process and they must go through the process. So he cannot allow Kwame Pepra to present the budget. You get it? And he went to the Supreme Court. When he went to the Supreme Court, Justice D.F. Annan was the Speaker of that Parliament. Another NDC stalwart. J.H. Mensah got a process to stop this thing, and he brought it to Justice D.F. Annan. That very day, Kwame Pepra was in Parliament, coming to present the budget. D.F. Annan, a patriotic citizen of this country, who loved this nation more than his political party, read what was brought him in the August House and told the members, the honorable members, at that time the NDC had overwhelming majority. The NDP had 66, the minority were 66, included independent, Ogede and all others. You get it? But then D.F. Annan read it to the House. That this is what I've got from the Supreme Court. They asked me not to allow the man to go ahead to present the budget, and I'm going to respect that. So they asked Kwame Pepra to leave the House. That's a patriotic citizen. Fast forward to today. The Speaker goes on the promise, and you see, the issue, my brother is schooled in London, in the United Kingdom. He knows the parliamentary system there. In the processes, they have a process of dissolving Parliament, where the Prime Minister informs the King or the Queen, okay? And Parliament is dissolved. When Parliament is dissolved, that is when you can now go to your constituencies and begin process to, get re-elected or be booted out. And they have 25 days. The day of dissolution and members going to their constituency is counted as day 0. The next day, day 1 begins. Now, why am I bringing this? In article, this thing, the purposive interpretation of that, which I call the spirit, and all of us call, the spirit of the framers of the Constitution was that to forestall the incidents where people get elected, they get to Parliament, and they think they are on their own, and willingly decide to cross carpets to another party. Maybe they might have been bought or promises made, or they decide now, no, we don't want, like what you're saying. Said, I don't want this party, I've moved to this party. That's why the framers said, no, if you do that, the party that brought you to Parliament, you've betrayed the people, your constituents, okay? Because you didn't tell them before doing that. So go back to them and seek their approval. That's why you automatically lose your seat, okay? It's to protect the sanctity and harmony of that Parliament. And each Parliament is unique, okay? First Parliament, this is the 8th Parliament, OHEMAA. So it's to this. And unfortunately, unlike the British system, our system, do you know that our constitution, parliamentary and presidential, is a blend of the UK and the United States? Yes. That's how come we have majority of our MPs from Parliament. It's wrong. In Liberia, all MPs are not ministers. And ministers are lower in ranking than members of Parliament. Okay? So these are the issues. Unlike there, in our case, we do the plans for next election concurrently with Parliament's activities and works. So how then can you say actions that are geared towards this thing should be seen? That's why Honorable Afenyo Markin said, let's go to the Supreme Court for interpretation. Okay? And it is not within the jurisdiction of the Speaker to take decisions like that, to sack members of Parliament. It's not clothed with those powers.
He declared the seats vacant. He didn't sack
them. He sacked them. That's what he's saying.
But they sacked themselves.
No, so that's why I say you need interpretation of that. Let's go. Okay? Yes, they say there's a precedent. And you know the sad aspect? He never, he's a lawyer. They call something on the Authority Party, right? He never called any one of them to ask him anything. Michael Quay, when the MPP wrote,
but do you think there was a need for that?
Listen, when the MPP wrote to Parliament, MPP wrote on ACHIAA with send delegation, big people, even the then candidate, okay, president, went to the constituency to meet. There was engagement, he disagreed. Okay? Then finally the MPP wrote that Michael Quay called the man, had an engagement with him and then made his ruling. That's not what happened. Now, the Supreme Court, when Afenyo went, look, do you know what? It's that when we're doing the 2013 petition and co, they said the purpose of the court system and co is to hold the nation together. So when you go there and the things you put there borders on the unity and sanctity, peace of the nation, they expedite work on it.
So I want to understand, is it to say that these individuals in question, the MPs whose seats were declared vacant, is it that their decision to cross carpets were speculations and that there were no
they have not crossed carpet.
There's no substantial evidence to that
they have
effect.
not crossed carpet. Their preparations, our administrative systems for the election.
But they went to the EC to file.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. If we were in the United Kingdom, there would be no problem. I'm coming. Parliament would have dissolved before the processes for the next election begins. That is not what we are doing. And every action taken by each of these people is towards the next election. So they have no intention to disrupt the engagement of this parliament. That's why we say we need interpretation. Now the same Supreme Court, like D.F. Anand's case, has given a ruling that we stay the execution of what we have done. Then it's given to the speaker. He acknowledges. He comes to the house and he says he adjourns. I don't understand.
But
at least you should officially tell the House.
Can he state something that he has already done?
Is it?
Can he state something that he has already done?
Yes,
but he has already done it.
Yes, so the court says states. So you cannot. What you have done is null and void.
That is
what the law says.
To put hold on what
Yes. So what you have done doesn't even exist. It's not accepted. That's what they have done. They've told him that what you have done is not accepted in law. Okay, for now, hold on. They remain MPs until we do the interpretation. He's right that when it comes to matters of parliament and all this, Article 99, High Court and all that, this is not, it's about interpretation of the Article 97, 1G and H. That is what OHEMAA is seeking.
That was the initial action that was that sought the interpretative jurisdiction of the Supreme Court.
Now the Supreme Court says we are going to do
but
that.
He went ex parte the Speaker or Parliament to go and injunct the Speaker's action.
Yes, and the Supreme Court acknowledged that and took action that, okay, hold on, we will sit on the matter. When we finish, then
but the Supreme Court, apparently the Supreme Court's reason for actually
acts on the whole nation.
Apparently the Supreme Court's reason for adhering to that petition was that there was no fair hearing and that the people in question. But the Constitution has expressly stated in Article 97G and H.
That's what we're seeking interpretation.
The article for contention
of your understanding. That's what we are saying.
It clearly states that
actions have nothing to do with this.
That is to say that the rules of natural justice have been flagrantly disregarded. But the Constitution is clear. He says if he leaves the party of which he was a member of at the time of his election to Parliament to join another party or seeks to remain in Parliament as an independent member, or if he was elected as a member of Parliament as an independent candidate and joins a political party. These are the conditions.
This unique to that Parliament.
These are the conditions
the uniqueness of the Parliament. Okay, the uniqueness.
Please let him land.
The uniqueness of that Parliament.
Yeah.
Their action has nothing to do with this current Parliament. In fact, the genesis or the history of these cross-carpeting things, in the British Parliament, when you look at the way it is arranged, there's benches, right? Yeah. There's a carpet between, you descend, cross to the next side, that you have crossed the carpet, okay, in that Parliament. You get it? Then they say, oh, and it happened. What are you saying, Professor? Kofi.
But we're using it in a metaphoric way.
Who is using it in metaphoric?
The crossing carpet. You are moving from one party to another.
In the British system, that's where it's coming from, right?
But we are using it here.
Yes, in our system, all these actions. That's why I said if there's dissolution of Parliament before elections, would you be having any problem with this? Because none of those four is crossing because of having a problem with this current parliament. No.
But
because there's administrative process.
Nobody is saying
the Electoral Commission says, go, your parties do things, file before election. Okay? The parliament is sitting. I feel I'm going independent. I won't go with my party. Next parliament, not this one. I'm not crossing carpet now.
But can we also refer to the NPP constitution? Can we refer to the NPP constitution where it states the forfeiture of
no, that's this thing. But when it comes to the constitution says every act which is at variance with the constitution is so you get it. But that one is for another day and another discussion.
But it applies.
No, the NPP wrote to this one. Who wrote to? He says somebody says the law is there.
The NPP writes to the speaker that these people still remain members of the party.
No, we haven't. Because no, you write to say the person is no more with your party. That's what we did in ACHIAA's case, and the speaker called him.
But this one the NPP did not write.
Yes. So what is the issue? Because it is the administrative process is ongoing. So what are we talking? That's why we say we need interpretation of this clause.
Which is
simplicity.
The case in court.
Which one?
The administrative process.
Electoral Commission.
But they have brought out a poll of notice.
Yes. Notice of poll. Yes.
Notice of poll, which has all these members of parliament indicating that.
Listen, that's why it has raised for the next parliament. And do you know that if you lay a bill and it's supposed to go for 21 days, and you do 19 days and parliament is dissolved, the next parliament will begin the whole process again. Do you know that?
Okay.
That is it. So the other parliament is gone. The next parliament, you begin the whole process again. That is how it is done.
Interesting.
You get it? So, Domelo and last one, Justice Atuguba and Co. Yes, they are former this day, and he knows. Poor man was a PNC General Secretary. President Mahama appointed him to the Supreme Court.
NDC General Secretary?
No, PNC.
Oh, okay.
PNC.
You said NDC.
No, I said PNC. Yeah.
Okay.
Gabriel Poorman, he's in the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Commissioner. We have information that he was a cadre and all that. He's read justice of power. He's risen through the ranks.
Right.
He's been sent to the Supreme Court.
Right.
There are many of them. Okay,
yeah.
So please, those ones, look, there are some people they can be this, but when you give them the response, look, if anybody could have changed election for choice, Charlotte herself could have done that,
right.
But she couldn't. Nobody, you can't do anything about it.
So
do your collation and your processes well,
right.
and
I'll let
protect your thing. That's all.
I'll let lawyer Hamza
so this matter there.
I'll let lawyer Hamza just
interpretation is needed
for a few minutes. For a few minutes, please, and then we move on to our next topic. We don't have too much time.
The law is not about throwing out jargons. It's about applicability of the rules. And if you look at the 1992 Constitution, you need to read it and read court judgments to appreciate the rationale behind purposive and literal interpretation. The court has not said that Ghana has completely moved away from literal interpretation of the statutes to purposive. If you look at the decisions of the Supreme Court, it is stated clearly, especially in AGYEKUM and Akwete and another versus AG. It stated clearly that where the literal meaning of the word or of the text is clear, you need not adopt the purposive interpretation. And if you look at the said article 97, 1, G and H, I'm just going to move straight to the G. It's a H. It said, a member of parliament shall vacate his seat in parliament. You see, that is why you don't need audio ulterior part. Because it says a member of parliament shall vacate. When you cross, are you getting it? So you don't even need anybody to tell you to leave. So if you look at the example he gave, if you look at the example he gave in relation to Professor Wayoseni, remember after the crossing, Wayoseni walked out. So you don't even need to wait for the speaker. But where you do the act that the Constitution cautions against, and if you look at 97G, it says, if he was elected a member of parliament as an independent candidate and joins a political party. So first deputy speaker, he was elected as a member of parliament
as an independent, not so. He decided to caucus with the NPP in Parliament. As we speak today, per the laws of Ghana, has he joined a political party or not? No, answer that question, please. The constitution didn't say this parliament or another party. Please, I have read H. It says if he was elected a member of parliament. The constitution didn't tell you if he was elected a member of a current parliament. The constitution says if he was elected a member of parliament as an independent candidate and joins a political party. The constitution, the text is clear. It didn't say the fourth parliament, the fifth parliament, or the current parliament. So my question is, reading this provision, has the man joined a political party as we speak today or not?
No.
Has he? Hasn't he joined? He's a member of the NPP now.
Oh, yeah.
He's a parliamentary candidate for the New Patriotic Party. That is clearly in violation of this particular provision.
Right. But that's a
That's a deputy speaker as independent. Now he's a member. Per the laws in Ghana, you cannot hold two identities. Even if I'm granting his argument that it relates to this parliament and to the next parliament, the question is, you have no power to freeze one identity of yours as an independent until after 7th January, where you activate another identity of you. The constitution doesn't give you that freedom. You don't have that power.
Right.
So if the speaker, that is why I've taken my time to explain that there's an application of the law, and there's an interpretation of the law, and there's an enforcement of the law. What the speaker did had nothing to do with interpretation of the clause. What he did was an application of that particular 97.
Right.
You understand? But when it comes to interpretation, it goes to the domain of the Supreme Court. But even with that, Article 99 has told us that when it has to do with the vacation of seat of a member of parliament or that of the speaker, your first point of call should not be the Supreme Court, largely because of the essence of separation of powers. And that is where purposivism and the spirit of the constitution comes in. Because you see, if to understand why 99 is operational, you need to look at the spirit of the constitution, and the spirit is simply telling you that the constitution is trying to promote a situation of separation of powers, where the judiciary, especially the Supreme Court, would not interfere with the work of parliament. Right. Please, you gave him enough time, please.
No, you had your time.
Yes,
and
but I see there's a need for me to explain this. There's a need for me to explain these issues. So now, if you look at the spirit of that constitution, the spirit is manifested in interpreting this. Is manifested in ensuring separation of powers and limiting the powers of the Supreme Court when it comes to parliament's work. So that is why we have argued that the first point of call shouldn't have been the Supreme Court, and that the Supreme Court doesn't have the jurisdiction. Please, it is when they go to the High Court and they raise issues and say that, look, we disagree with the decision of the Speaker to remove us, and on the basis of that we even think that his interpretation of the clause is wrong, then the High Court will now refer. In that way, you have honored Article 99 by not making the Supreme Court your first point of call. The High Court will now refer your issue of interpretation you are claiming, because the Supreme Court will not, the High Court will not have power to interpret. They will now refer it to the Supreme Court. Then the Supreme Court will interpret Article 99, 97, 1, H and G and H, and make a determination.
Okay.
But to the extent that that was not done, but I'll let me learn.
Are you barely saying that no citizen has the right to go to school?
No, you see, that is another. Every citizen has. You said I get.
Provided you're a citizen of Ghana.
But so you need education. So let me educate you on that, please. Can you respect this? You've asked a question. Let me educate you. If you interpret constitutional provisions in isolation, you are engaged in an exercise of futility. You cannot take 2-1 without reference to Article 130, and in the case of the facts of the case, without reference to Article 97 and 99. And I'm telling you that interpreting it together, clearly, the Supreme Court would have no jurisdiction. And I'll give you a classical example of Bimpong Buta versus the General Legal Council. Bimpong Buta was a citizen of Ghana, and he had every right under Article 2.1 to have gone to the Supreme Court for interpretation when the General Legal Council said that he was no more qualified to be director of the Ghana School of Law. But when he went to the Supreme Court as a citizen of Ghana seeking interpretation of the clause the General Legal Council used to take him out of office, the Supreme Court told him that he had addressed a human rights issue in the form of interpretation, though they agreed that the issue had to do with interpretation too. They returned him to the High Court But he could not say that. He said he came under 2-1, like you people are arguing.
Yeah.
As a citizen of Ghana, he should have been entertained. That is why I'm telling you that, Peter, if you are reading the Constitution, don't read it in isolation.
The Supreme Court itself.
Don't read the law in isolation. So I am telling you, I'm coming, please.
They took a decision.
Oh my goodness. I'm not even going to the substance of the decision. I'm not even going to that. I'm just you asked for education. I've provided the education. And so if you say, if we question, yes, I'm going to wrap up. If you, I'll tell you now wrap up. You see, if you respect the state institutions, especially when it comes to the separation of powers, and I've given you an overview, that when you look at the spirit of the Constitution, you may not see it in the articles of the Constitution.
Of course.
But naturally, for instance, if you look at the 1992 Constitution, you know that it is against coup d'etats. So the spirit tells you that the Constitution is against coup d'etats, as held in 31st December case.
Immunities.
And gives, so that is the spirit. Yeah. And I'm telling you, if you look at the spirit and you take that in consultation with the committee's report, the Consultative Assembly's report, you realize that the spirit is against a situation where the Supreme Court in particular, not every other court, interferes with the work of Parliament. That is why, if you look at the report was first against matters of this, even going before the courts. The rule
Parliament being the master of his own rules.
Oh yes, yes, but that is not what I'm even talking about here. That's not what I'm even talking about here. So you get the point I'm making. So now, if you look at the spirit of the Constitution, it clearly establishes that the Supreme Court shouldn't intrude. And the Consultative Assembly's report suggested the Judicial Committee of the Peace Council. It tells you the mindset it had. And if you look at 99 also tells you that don't go to the Supreme Court when you are dealing with vacancy, irrespective of the issue. Come to High Court. Again, it is speaking about separation of powers under the spirit of the Constitution. Then when you go to appeals in terms of parliamentary elections, when you are challenging an election petition, it is not accidental that it ends at the Court of Appeal. It doesn't go to the Supreme Court. So it tells you that when Parliament or the Speaker takes a decision in Parliament and has made a determination in terms of the declaration of seats, your first point of call, in honor to that spirit of that Constitution, is Article 99, which is a High Court, and definitely not the Supreme Court. And that is the basis.
Thank you very much, Counsel, for that enlightenment.
And this must respect that rule.
Right. So we have messages coming in. It says that OHEMAA, George AC is saying that the vacation of seats as in Article 97 is futuristic in the next Parliament. If so, is he telling us that should Cynthia Morrison win as an independent candidate on 7 December, Cynthia will then vacate her seat in the 9th Parliament? And if she loses and has no seat in the 9th Parliament, which seat does she vacate? All right, interesting one. This one said that...
That question is from a very big man.
Says, good morning, please.
He's a key man of the NDC.
Good morning,
He's
please.
my own boss.
The NPP man, if elections is going to be held in 2025, okay. Ajay, please tell Mr. AC that we know him very well and we know the trend he's trying to go, but with the interpretation of Supreme Court to stay execution is to make prejudgment to the case, and one can easily predict judgment of the court. Ghanaians have truly lost trust in the judiciary. Go to the people and listen to them and see.
Judiciary that gave
and you will see
freedom.
Okay, so this one, if vacation of seats means futuristic, is a member going to stop going to Parliament? Should he be voted for in the next election? Question mark. Okay.
No.
Good morning, OHEMAA. I trust this message finds you well. I'm really getting educated this morning by George EC. Kindly tell Lawyer Hamza to join the winning team. It's possible for Dr. Baumia, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah.
We've had different interpretations of the said article by both parties. Who should we seek the right interpretation from? The Supreme Court is the answer. Common sense will agree with what the Supreme Court did.
Thank you.
The decision to go independent is not the current Parliament, but rather the next Parliament. Why should we deny Ghanaians representation in Parliament because of a so-called majority the opposition wants? I agree with lawyer on this one. Okay, let me take a few more. Look, okay. Well, An increase in our gold reserves has a corresponding degradation of our land and forests and the population of our water bodies. Stop Galam say now, if we gain the whole world, if we gain the whole world and lose our soul, what do we profit? Okay, from AGYEKUM say an increase. Okay, he repeats the message again. Let me take 2 more and then we're out of here. Good morning, Madam. I would like you to bring it home to Mr. EC and his likes in the MPP that during the reign of Speaker Prof. Michael Quay, the seat was declared vacant and it did not affect, no, it didn't affect anyone in Parliament.
Objected to that.
Right. Now that it has affected them, Parliament, they have resulted in unnecessary noise. Okay, interesting. All right. I wish I could read all the messages, but this one, final one. OHEMAA, if Supreme Court has the mandate of the mandatory power to control Parliament's proceedings, then why do we have a Speaker of Parliament? NDC has 137 parliamentarians, same as NPP. Why independent candidates doing business with NPP for majority of Parliament for NPP? During the time the independent candidates campaigning for election, did he inform his constituents that he's going to do business with the NPP? Question mark. NDC consider NPP for so long. All right, it's been insightful here on the show. Unfortunately, we are hard pressed with time, and we have to wrap up here. We have to wrap up here. So I'll just give you 30 seconds each to talk about your party and what you want the world to know about your party. Same, nothing related to the subject for discussion. Thank you very much, and then we are out of here.
Thank you, Alhaji Dr. Bawumia is our candidate. He's making exploits, especially in the Volta region. We're excited about that. It's because of the phenomenal infrastructure development and social policies that this government has brought that is making the Volta region get attracted to the MPP. The UHAS. Go see what has happened, the radical transformation, the whole township, Sokode to whole roads, go to Hohoi, the internal roads, go to other places in the Volta region, infrastructure, Eastern Corridor, massive development, Hohoi to Jasikan and all that. The people of Ghana, NPPs for development and for progress. In spite of the COVID pandemic, in spite of the Russia-Ukraine challenges, we've been consistently pushing the frontiers of development. Trust in the NPP and Dr. Bawumia, and your future and that of your children is assured. God bless our nation, Ghana.
Speak for your party.
We are dealing with two personalities who have proven record of integrity and honesty and fidelity to the truth. Here I'm making references to His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, and of course the impeccable character of Professor J. Nana Opoku-Agyeman. They have proven over the years that when it comes to the development of this country, they put it first. When it comes to respect for the institutions of state, they will continue to respect it. When it comes to the freedom of the media and press, they will continue to do so. In terms of developmental footprints, we can see their developmental works in the likes of the Terminal 3, International Airport, that is a talk in Africa. We can make direct references to the UGMC hospital and the state hospitals and that of bank hospitals that was spearheaded under his tenure as president. We can make references to over 120 community-day senior high schools that His Excellency drove to have asked for everybody to have access to community to education. We can talk about massive infrastructure in the road network. A classical example is even the circle interchange that we transformed in a matter of 2 years. When it comes to the road sector, you can talk about the Damango roads, we can talk about roads in the northern region. And you see, it is not just about infrastructure. We are also talking about integrity and honesty and truth. And these two individuals reflect those principles. And that is the reason why you are asked to vote for them and vote for His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. And to put an end to corruption and incompetence. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and his boss manifest incompetence and reckless corruption as far as the economy of this country.
Thank you so much for joining us to unpack the issues and also having conversations that, that shape our country. My name is OHEMAA AGYEKUM. This has been the newspaper review segment on Good Morning Africa. It's a Friday, and so make sure that during the weekend you unwind and get recharged for the coming weeks. Now, it's been a pleasure. It's been an insightful session. Thank you to you, Lawyer Hamza, for always heeding to our call, and to you, AEC, for that energy. Always, we cannot do away with your energy. All right, so do not forget, and to Dr. Ramsey as well, we really appreciate your time wherever you are. Thank you. Do not forget, we are still in the month of October, so we are fighting against breast cancer. Join forces for this cancer to be brought to a minimum extent. Good morning once again, and we'll see you next week.